Hello, everybody, and welcome to the top 5 new comics for July 24th of 2024. I'm, as always, Chris, and really excited about this week's slate of books. Some that I may be reviewing here in the near future, some that I've already reviewed, and some that I'm just really looking forward to get my hands on when I finally do get some copies. But let's jump right into it, starting with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. This is written by Jason Aaron with art by Joelle Jones, colors by Rhonda Pattinson, letters by Sean Lee, and edited by Jamie S. Rich. So I did already review this book, so I've already read it. But I have to recommend it as one of the books you got to check out this week because it is such a fresh, kind of soft reboot of the Turtles. Great for new people jumping in. People may not have been keeping up with the previous series, want some sort of fresh start to jump right in. And it was just fantastically done. This isn't much of a spoiler because it's in all the PR for it, but the first 4 issues really center around each turtle individually, and this one centers around Raph. I keep saying Ralph. And it's funny because we see Raph in a position you never think you would see him in. And we get him in this atmosphere where you might think that he's down and out, but he's not. He's still a part of the Ninja Turtles, as you will. Even though the group is split up and they're all doing their own individual things, something's got to bring them together. And we learn in this issue what that is. The issue's amazingly drawn, well written, and it has something at the end that brings it all together that I feel like we're going to get little drips and drabs of for at least the first 4 issues. Who knows what happens in issue 5. And I just overall thought it was an amazing start to the series. IDW did a fantastic job of relaunching this brand. I've heard over and over again how great the 150 previous issues were, and I would love to go back one day and read them all. But for now, we've got this soft reboot that really just jumps you right into the world and gives you everything you need to figure out what's going on, even if they do still keep some secrets along the way. So I really, really enjoyed this issue, and I really can't recommend enough this book. And just to be warned, it is a very, very brutal comic. I wouldn't say I wouldn't recommend it to kids, but it has definitely got a older age group in mind. After that, I have Nemesis, Rogues Gallery #1. This is written by Mark Millar with art by Valerio Giangiordano. The short of it is the Millarverse is something that I dive in and out of, and Nemesis is always one that brings me back. Ever since I discovered it very late and just fell in love with the premise of it. And then kind of speaking of soft reboots, the soft reboot of it a few years back that led into Big Game, which was one of my favorite crossover books ever. And coming out of that, where Nemesis is, what this book is going to do to him, I don't know. But man, am I looking forward to seeing what they got in store for him. Nemesis is just such a great character. It's that evil Batman with just sinister deeds going on all around him. It's just a ton of fun. It's basically the worst version of Batman you could ever imagine. It's not even like what if Batman was the Joker. It's just what if Batman was evil, just straight up evil. And it's a ton of fun to go through. So I'm looking forward to going back into that world, jumping back into this character and seeing what he has in store. And hopefully Millar's still got the magic. I can tell you with Big Game, he definitely still had the magic. So we'll see with this one. And I cannot wait. This is going to be probably one of the first books off the pile when I get my comics on Wednesday. And after that, I've got Rook Exodus #4. This is written by Geoff Johns with art by Jason Fabok, colors by Brad Anderson, and letters by Rob Lee. Ghost Machine has been so much fun since the beginning. When we got that one shot, introduced us to all these books. Obviously, we'd already seen Geiger in his own stuff. We'd seen G.I. Robot in his own series. We got tastes of these new books, and now we're like 4 or 5 issues into some of them with Rook and Redcoat. And I have just really, really enjoyed both these books. If I said it once, I said it a million times, this has been Geoff Johns kind of reinvigorating his imagination and creativity into doing something that is back to that magic of Geoff Johns. I feel like his DC stuff has slipped over the past however many years, and these books have been what I expect from him. And with the last issue, getting to see all the different helmets and the different the different wardens throughout the world brought with it some really cool ideas and things that could happen in this world. Obviously, there's some sort of war brewing. There's going to be a giant conflict coming, but we've got to assemble more wardens together to get them. And if you don't know, the wardens are these people that, like Rook here on the cover, have these helmets help them control different animals. So each warden is based on a different animal. And you see some of them in the cover I'm showing here. But if you go back and read issue 3, you'll see a montage of them and all the different ones and who they are and everything. It's just, the designs are awesome. Fabok's art is phenomenal. Just this book has been a ton of fun. And I cannot recommend Ghost Machine as a whole enough. Like, all the books they've been putting out have been really good. Redcoat is still my favorite, but Rook is right up there. It's a matter of what kind of genre you prefer. And with Redcoat, it gives me that historical fiction. That's a ton of fun. This is more like post-apocalyptic sci-fi, which is also right in my wheelhouse, but I don't get a whole lot of historical fiction in this world. So I veered towards that as one of my favorites. All that aside, just a great book with some amazing art. This is one that you all should be reading. 100%. It needs to be on your pull list. And after that, I've got Greaser, Gemini Blues #1. This is written by Darick Robertson with art by Stephen B. Jones. So for those who don't know, last week we had Darick Robertson on the podcast. That's the Fortune Comic News podcast, if you want to check that out. And we talked a lot about this book and a few other things he's doing, including some future issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it was interesting because Darick's a guy, he's a legend in this industry. Like, one of the co-creators of The Boys, the artist for Transmetropolitan. He's just done so much amazing stuff, from those books to the DC books to all this stuff he's done throughout the years. And while he's done some writing, he's always written for himself for the most part. And it was interesting to see him take this book on as just a writer. And although I know he's capable of it, he's a very talented and creative person. He even admits some of the flaws along the way that he made because he wrote it for himself. So he knew in his head what things would look like and what they would do. And having those learning curves along the way was interesting to talk about. That all aside, just the book, this idea of a future Earth where global warming goes crazy, there's aliens, and we have almost a Romeo and Juliet love story here, while at the same time showing this character who's good at rebuilding things and uses that skill to help out the aliens rebuild their ships and what conflict comes with that. Magma Comics has been a publisher that came out of nowhere, came barreling into this industry, and was immediately on my list of like just great comic creators for some of the books they're putting out. So when they put out a book, I raise an eyebrow because I feel like they have an eye for talent. And to be fair, they've had a lot of great creators along the way. Darick, the Hive Mind, a few others. But the books they're putting out are so much different from what these guys are known for. And once you get them, you see that their talent is much more than what we may have seen along the way with some of the mainstream stuff they've done. So I just think Greaser sounds like a really cool book. After talking with Darick about it, I'm really excited. This might be one of the books I'll be reviewing this week. We will see. But it just looks like a really cool book, and I can't recommend this book in particular, but just keeping your eye on Magma Comics as a whole. The books they've done along the way have been some of my favorites of the year so far. Silicon Bandits comes to mind. And I'm really hoping that Greaser Gemini Blues is up there with the rest of these books and comes out really well. And we will end with Flash Gordon #1. This is written by Jeremy Adams with art by Will Conrad, colors by Lee Luridge, and letters by Taylor Esposito. Much like Dick Tracy, Flash Gordon is one of these IPs that I have very little to no affiliation with. I know of Flash Gordon. I know I've seen the movie back in the day, the live action movie, but just very little other than general pop cultureness of this character, knowing that he's the basis for what made George Lucas want to create Star Wars and some other things that I love to this day. And when I heard that Magma Comics was getting this, along with Dick Tracy and Gatchaman, it raised an eyebrow because these were all IPs I had an interest in, but didn't really have an entrance point into. And here we are with Flash Gordon #1. And I read the free comic book day issue, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a quick, simple story that set up what the book's going to be. And now we've got #1 coming, and I'm just interested to see how they build this world and make it more modern. Bring Flash Gordon to the 21st century. Funny as that is, because it's a sci-fi book based in that century, but it's just a cool concept that's been the basis for so much sci-fi throughout the years. Like I said, Star Wars was built as an homage to Flash Gordon initially. Like George Lucas loved Flash Gordon, wanted to do a Flash Gordon movie, and built Star Wars on the back of that love. So for me personally, as just a huge Star Wars fan, it'd be cool to go back and to go into this and find a way to fall in love with Flash Gordon. And hopefully I enjoy it and I really love it. I love the concept. I love the character designs. That initial issue was a lot of fun with all the action and kind of the intrigue and espionage they did with it. And we will see where the book goes. But if that happens, it'd be cool to go back and then discover the world of Flash Gordon even further, because it's just a great concept and it's lived on for so long. So I'm really excited to jump into Flash Gordon, and I think it's one of those books. And like I said with Magma, like Mad Cave is a studio that I've said a million times over is synonymous with quality. Every book they put out may not be for you, because not every book they put out is for me, but every book they put out is of a quality. And that's something I respect about this publisher in particular, is that they're putting out good books, even if they're not all for me. So they're just another independent, smaller tier publisher that's worth looking at, who's making moves right now. And I just really love what they're doing. And Flash Gordon, I think, is going to be a big one for them. So I hope everybody checks it out. And that is everything this week. Remember, everybody, if you want to support me, you can like, subscribe, comment down below on this video right here. You can also go to chriscomicscorner.substack.com to check out my reviews and my retro reread series and so on and so forth. And you can check out the podcast at Fortress Comic News every week. Like I said, we had Darick Robertson on last week. We always have great comic creators on. We talk about the news going on every week. So if you're into comics in the industry, we've got a podcast for you. So thank you all so much for watching and or listening this week. I'll see you all here next week.